Well, tough, tough teaching today. Lesson 128, Workbook of A Course in Miracles. Tough teaching. The world I see has nothing that I want. All right, just for a second, read that, say that to yourself, and find out if it's true or not. The only way that you can actually do this lesson is by reading what it says and finding out if there's anything that you still think it has that you want. Not that you conceptually understand it. Anybody can understand this conceptually. That's not what it's about. What it's about is looking into your own mind, into your own life, into your own experience, and finding out if it's true or not by seeing what it is you're valuing, by what it is you're doing and seeking in the world. It's really sort of simple. Very few people are actually going to do it that way. They're going to get it as a concept, use it as a concept, say it a lot of times as they go out and seek diplomas, degrees, certifications for all manner of things, betterment in the world, thoughts that when they have more, they can be able to practice A Course in Miracles. When I get enough, when I accumulate enough, I'll be able to leave the world behind. That's what this is all about. The world you see has nothing that you need to offer you. The world you see has nothing that you need to offer you. Nothing that you can use in any way. Tough teaching, nor anything at all that serves to give you joy. What are you pursuing in life that you think is going to make you happy? I understand conceptually you can nod your head at these lessons, but it's not conceptual recognition of the truth of the lesson that we're looking for in order to achieve the goal that is given us to achieve in the Course by doing the lessons. Believe this thought and you are safe from years of misery, from countless disappointment, from hopes that turn to bitter ashes of despair. No one but must accept this thought as true. It's true. If he would leave the world behind and soar behind its petty scope and little ways. So what we do, I don't know. Having soared behind the world in its petty ways and being back here once again, obviously there's things that I think I still need. And that was an examination of consciousness that I went through last night upon reading the lesson. But the admission that there are things that I still think are valuable helped me overcome my own admission and thoughts that they are. That's the way, for me, that's the way I do these lessons. And the only way I have learned that it is possible to overcome the need to think there's something in the world that can offer me anything is by giving up the world over and over again, and allowing what I require to fulfill my function to be given back to me as the Holy Spirit sees fit, not as I think I need. And in that, I find great joy over and over again. But of course, every once in a while, I look around and say, well, I could certainly use that. I don't know if it's going to make me happy. It's not going to make me happy. Sometimes I think it's just going to be more practical. But joy comes from within. All joy comes from the doing of God's will, period. When you experience moments of joy, it is because in that moment you actually did God's will. Now, the funny thing about that is, in those moments of joy, and this is the addictive nature of the human mind, the looking outside of itself, and it's also the process by which one becomes sober in the 12-step program. Also, what we find out is that in those moments that we've experienced a joy that surpasses the situation that we find ourselves in, we have all had a tendency to attempt to repeat the situation in order to find the joy again, forgetting that the joy came from in that moment doing God's will. That's one of the reasons why I think we've been given A Course in Miracles, because many people, due to the nature of, how should I say this, due to the advances that the entire human race, the brotherhood, the separated brotherhood, is making in its pursuit of salvation, there are these moments that bubble up in each and every one of us. And we experience a joy without opposite. We experience a joy that is not of this world. But without the mind training program of A Course in Miracles, we're still much apt, more likely than not, to attribute it to what's been going on around us in an attempt to duplicate what's going on around us to find that joy again. And that's, my friends, is how the ego has been operating since the beginning of time. And that, my friend, is what we need to understand to bring about the non-necessity of time or the end of it. No one but must accept this statement as true. And when we say true, we mean without opposite. Truth is without opposite and has no opposition to it. Now, the practice would be, in that case, to look into our minds, look into our hearts, look around us in the world, to see where there's an exception to that in our experience, and be honest with ourselves. Simple, honest admissions. It doesn't make you sinful. It allows you to reconcile the discrepancies in your own mind and heart, so as to true yourself up and come into an alignment with God's will. Because the kingdom is where the will of the Father and the will of the Son are in perfect accord. And that is what we're attempting to do. Find that which is out of accord. Utilize the light of, let's say, this teaching, the light that's in this teaching. No one but must accept this as true. Not conceptually true, but true beyond an opposition or ability to be opposed. Truth is true, and nothing else is true. Truth has no opposite. It has no opposition. And yet, when we hear truth, or look for truth, or find truth, it then gives us the ability to discover that which is not true. And the process of forgiveness, the utilization of the light of understanding, which is the Holy Spirit, by opening our mind and our heart to that, is the process of forgiveness that allows us to recognize and release that which is not true, so as to continually raise ourselves up in an increasing alignment and harmony with our reality as God created us. I hope that makes sense. That's my practice. Let me put it this way. That's my practice. That's how I've learned to do this. I don't know of another way, and I'm not concerned about another way. If you found another way to do this, so be it. More power to you. I can only give you the benefit of what has been given to me and how I have learned. And the recognition that in the moments when I achieve joy, peace, love without opposite, it had nothing to do with the world. And in fact, I released the world from having anything to do with me. Now, up to now, those have been the anomalies in our experience. Those have been the anomalous moments that we attempt to duplicate and replicate. What this is saying is, that's not the anomaly, that's natural. That's natural to the divine mind and heart of God's Son as God created him. Miracles are natural. When they are not occurring, something has gone wrong. So in order to restore your mind to being the miracle worker, to the miraculous nature that's being asked of you in A Course in Miracles, you look for that which is unnatural and pluck it from your mind. If now I be singular, then your experience will be singular. If your eye offends you, pluck your eye out. That's what that means. That doesn't physically take your eye out. No one but must accept this thought as true if he would leave this world behind and soar beyond its petty scope in little ways. Okay, now, this is what I would say to you. If you don't want to leave this world behind and soar beyond its petty scope in little ways, that's okay. There will come a point in time when you will decide that that's what you want, and in that moment of complete and total decision, it will occur to you, and then this lesson will become helpful. Many people aren't willing. They come to the lessons and say, no, you know what? I still want this world to be real because I still think there are things in it that attract me, and I'd like to participate in the attractive nature of the world for a moment longer because I haven't suffered enough yet, obviously. Each thing you value here is but a chain that binds you to the world. Period. What are you valuing? Don't spiritualize your experience. Don't spiritualize your worldly pursuits. Well, I'm becoming a minister of God. Don't spiritualize your worldly pursuits. You are already among the ministers of God. You need no certificate. You need to pay no dues. You just need to recognize that is true. You need no validation other than the validation that comes when you accept that as true. You align your mind with the Holy Spirit. You align your mind with Jesus and let Jesus show you, or the Holy Spirit open your mind to the recognition that that is already true of you. And it's not true of you because of anything that has happened in this world. It's true because something has happened within your heart and your mind in a moment when you desired not anything of the world and desired your reality instead. Everything must serve the purpose you have given it until you see a different purpose there. The only purpose worthy of your mind this world contains is that you pass it by. Be a passerby, just passing through. Be a passerby. Gospel of Thomas. You want a tie-in? There's your tie-in. That you pass it by without delay, delaying to perceive some hope where there is none. There's no hope here. Hope's in your heart. And just as easily you could identify with the ego, you could use the ability to identify with hope as seeing something in the world that you think offers you hope. That's what goes on. It's not that there's really hope out there. It's that we use the skill of identity, which is in our mind, and relates to hope of a better life, because this is not life at all. We utilize that skill of identity, see something outside of ourselves that reminds us that there's a better life, then seek that rather than recognize there's a reminder there's a better life. There must be a better way. There must be another way. But the other way is not in the world at all. Be you deceived no more. The world you see as nothing that you want. Escape today the chains you place upon your mind when you perceive salvation. There's no salvation in the world. There's no communication in the world. There's communication between brothers because minds are joined. There's ability to recognize you've been saved by seeing the world is not real. It's not your home, and God would never have you pay dues for anything because all things have been ready given to you. Not all things in an illusion of a world, but all things within the reality of God's eternal, infinite, loving nature to share with you as your reality. Not the image's reality, the power behind the throne. For what you value make you part of it. as you perceive yourself. All things you seek to make your value greater in your sight limit you further, hide your worth from you, and add another bar across the door that leads to true awareness of yourself. I don't know what people do with those statements. I know people nod their head. I know they acquiesce to it. But this is listen, learn, and do. Listen to the voice of God. Listen to Jesus. Learn from it. And then do something to correct the mistake that allowed you to learn that you were merely mistaken. It was an error in your thinking. And no salvation lies outside of yourself or in anything you do. Now, you can try to kid yourself into thinking that you can go ahead and do things and not have them affect you or affect your ability to achieve salvation and recognize yourself. But that's only the dualistic nature, the skullduggery of the dualistic nature of the mind that is split into, and here's why, this is what I was given last night. Okay, I know this may be difficult for people to understand. Every time you pursue something in the world, you are likewise pursuing what it is not, and that guarantees that you lose it, if that makes any sense. Everything in this world that you pursue has something, also has the side of it that it is not. And when you pursue what there is, you are likewise getting the result of what it is not, and hence you must lose it to prove the truth of your own thinking. That may be too tough for many of you. I'll say it again. Everything in this world, due to the dualistic nature of the projected imagery that it comes from, has an idea of what something is and what something is not. And when you pursue anything in this world, you are likewise you must likewise get the result of what it is not as part of the pursuit of your receiving it. So when you pursue anything in this world, you are also pursuing its opposite. And hence, you wind up in conflict. And there is no relief from the conflict that occurs in your mind until you give up the pursuit of the world in its entirety, where opposites and opposition can seem to exist. I don't know. I'm giving it my best shot here. I'm using what I was given to understand last night. Let nothing which relates to the body, thoughts, delay your progress to salvation, nor permit temptation to believe the world as anything you want to hold you back. Okay, that's a caveat there that allows you to recognize that for a moment you still may think there's things in this world that you need in order to achieve your goal. As I heard one teacher of God say, as he attempted to collect money, it takes money to do God's will. That's not possible. It takes the willingness to do God's will. Beyond the necessity of requiring anything in this world, because God's will is not in this world. This is the denial of God's will. Leave nothing which relates to the body thoughts. Let nothing which relates to the body thoughts delay your progress to salvation, nor permit temptation to believe the world as anything you want to hold you back. Nothing is here to cherish. So what that's saying to me is this. Okay, in the course of my day, when something comes up and I think that I need it, at least let me recognize that I'm not seeing truly, even if I go after it. At some point in time, the pain of doing that will become greater than the pain of not doing it, and something else will dawn on you as a solution to the dilemma that you find yourself in, and that is the nature of how the alcoholic mind is healed of its inability to stop drinking, by the admission that it's unable to stop drinking and the claim that it would like to. The discrepancy in the dualistic mind gets so painful that when you can no longer stand the pain on either side, you ask for something outside of the realm of the dualistic thinking that you're being offered to yourself, that you're offering to yourself. If that makes any sense. Nothing is here to cherish. Nothing is worth one instant of delay. Simply pass it by. Oh, it's interesting that I want that, but if I'm not going after the truth of who I am and the salvation of the world, I can't let it delay me. Sometimes what I have to do for myself is this. Okay, wait a second. If that's meant to be, it will be given to me. If it's not meant to be, I want no part of it. Because I want nothing that can delay. And in that moment, I really can't tell the difference. It's okay that I can't tell the difference. That's why we have A Course in Miracles. It's okay. It's all okay. It's all in here. All the contingencies are covered. Especially when you can be honest with yourself about what it is you're seeking. So the world I see holds nothing that I want, and I'm not going to belabor this more. Today we practice letting go of all thoughts of value we have given the world, just for a second. Just for, as I say, a couple times a day, 10 times a day. Let your mind rise up to the level wherein which it is whole and perfect. Experience that wholeness and perfect. And then utilize that brightness to get a new reflection of yourself and not pursue the old by letting it go. If you do it by increments, you do it by increments. If your mind goes into a moment of revelation and there's no more increments because truth is true and nothing else is true, and you've successfully experienced a reality wherein which there's no fear, God bless you. But miracles are what we need to join minds together that have thought they're separate. They're more useful, more efficient than revelation right now, because revelation is only temporary, and miracles allow us to see the permanence of the truth of who we are in reality beyond the dream that we find ourselves to be dreaming. We hold it purposeless within our mind and loosen it from all we wish it were there. Thus do we lift the change which bar the door to freedom from the world and go beyond all the little and diminished goals. There's an admission that you still have, there's an admission necessary that you still have these little goals that limit you. And for a second, make the admission. And in that second, something new can occur to you. You're not going to lose the things you love. That's not possible. You can't lose what's real. You may lose your desire to continue in the pursuit of unreality for a second, and then allow you to be restored by the truth of who you are and the nature of the Holy Spirit's ability to give you what you require for the moment that you require it. But remember that you require nothing, and when it's no longer valuable and no longer required, you're free to let it go. And when you could release yourself in joy rather than in suffering, you've become a happy learner. A happy learner knows how to let go and joy rather than wait till the suffering comes that causes him the pain that necessitates the release that he's in conflict over release of that which is in conflict of letting go of. The world I see has nothing that I want. I'm not going to let it delay me. I was given the ability to no longer have to repeat space and time, and that's okay, because when I no longer have to repeat space and time, all of it's going to be gone from me. And nothing's going to be left to tempt me. And that's a hell of a lot easier for me to understand than having to look at the little bits and pieces and see what's what. I want the peace of God. I want a peace that surpasses the understanding of the ego and the ability for me to utilize the laws of the kingdom to align myself with God's will and do God's will, because all joy comes from doing that. This world holds nothing that I want. There's nothing in it that can give me joy. It doesn't mean that it doesn't foster the ability for you to experience joy, but it also means that there's nothing in it that actually causes the joy, because there is no cause in the world, because it's a dream, it's not a reality, and only reality can be causative. Thank you.